Hey, this is Brett with Extra Mile CDL. We're doing the Class A CDL inspection. We're using the Class A checklist that you get to use on all of your tests, whether it's Class A or Class B. So I'm just going to do the inspection. So just follow along, look for the rhythm, for the pattern that you're going to hear with words, what we're doing. First off, I'm just going to check the lenses on the front of the truck. I'm going to make sure the lenses and the clearance and marker lights, they're properly secured. They're not damaged, they're the proper color, and they're clean. Identify the power steering reservoir, make sure that it's properly mounted and secured. You gotta make sure it's not leaking. I'm gonna check all the connecting hoses and the couplings to the reservoir, they're not leaking. I'm gonna make sure that I identify the minimum and maximum, make sure that the level between the min and max. If I have to add fluid, I'm gonna add it here. This cap is secure and tight, and I only make sure I would loosen that cap and add fluid when that is cool to the touch. I'm going to do a general overview on this side. Just going to make sure I check all of my hard lines and my soft lines. Make sure all my connections are good. All of the casings are good. Make sure electrical is no exposed frayed wires. I'm going to check underneath and make sure that there's no puddles or dripping underneath the engine or transmission. And just general, nothing's loose or broken or damaged on this side of the vehicle. And we have a couple of critical fluids to identify on this side. The first is going to be the engine oil. The engine oil dipstick is securely mounted. It's not missing any hardware there. It's locked in place. To check the engine oil, I would take the dipstick out. I'd wipe it clean. I'd put it back in, make sure it's there for a count or two. Bring it back out, make sure it read between add and full. Replace it and lock it. If I had to add engine fluid, I do it over here at the filler cap. The filler cap is on tight. The neck is secure, not loose, it's not leaking. The second critical fluid is a power steering reservoir. The power steering reservoir is properly secured. Hardware is in place, there's no cracks or no leaks. The clamps to the hoses here are secured, not damaged, not leaking. Check to make sure the level on the sight glass is between the cold, hot, or the max hot, somewhere in there, and we're right in the max cold. If I had to add fluid, I'd add it up here at this cap. This cap is on tight and it's secure. I do another general overview on this side of the engine. Again, checking all the soft lines, checking the hard lines, checking the connectors, checking the electrical. Make sure everything is secure and mounted. The air lines back here, no audible leaks. I don't see any visible leaks. I don't see any broken parts. I don't see any drips underneath the engine and transmission on this side as well. Okay, when we get to the checklist, the next thing to do is the steering system. So we're down to the steering system now. In the steering system, identify the power steering gearbox that is properly mounted and secured to the frame. There's no missing hardware. It's not cracked or leaking. I'm going to make sure I check the hard lines or the soft lines, whatever you are in your truck, to the gearbox. Make sure that the couplings are secure, the lines are secure, they're not leaking. I'm going to check the steering linkage from the gearbox to the wheel to make sure that they're all properly secured, they're not damaged or broken. Okay, all the way down here from the pivot arm to the tie rod. I'm going to check the ball joints. Identify that we have 3 ball joints. And all the connecting parts down here, the ball joints are not loose, they're not worn, not leaking. I'm going to check to make sure that we have our castle nuts and cotter pins. We have 3 of those too. 1, 2, and 3 back down there. Make sure that the castle nuts and cotter pins are in place and not missing. Okay. We're going to move outside to look at our tire. On our tire, we want to make sure that we have even tread wear. To measure the tread depth, I'd use a tread depth gauge on each of the major grooves to make sure we have a minimum of 4/32 of an inch. I'm going to make sure that the outside sidewall and inside sidewall and the tread is not cut, damaged, or exposes any plies or cords. I'm going to check the inside rim and the outside rim to make sure they're not cracked, not bent or broken. There's no broken welds on the inside of the outside rim. Okay? check the valve stem. The valve stem is secure, it's accessible, it's not leaking, and it has a metal cap. I would make sure to use a air pressure gauge to check the pressure of the tire and fill it to manufacturer's recommendation or your company's recommendation. Check the lug nuts. All the lug nuts are present. They're not damaged. I don't see any rust trails, shiny threads, or elongated bolt holes that would indicate looseness. Come in here to this back to the inside of the truck and look at the suspension. Identify the brackets in the front and the rear. Make sure that the brackets are properly secured to the frame, that there's no missing hardware. I want to make sure that the spring is not missing, that it's not shifted or twisted, that it's secure to the axle. And look at the shock absorber, make sure that it's properly secured at both top and bottom. It's not cracked or damaged, and it's not leaking from the middle. And look at the air lines and the air connectors. The connector here and the brake chamber here on the frame, those connectors are both secure, they're not damaged, they're not leaking. I'm checking the air line itself. The air line there's no abrasions or bulges, cuts. There's no audible leaks, and the air line supplies air to the brake chamber. I'm going to look inside the tire here. I'm going to look inside and make sure there's no contaminants such as grease or oil or debris that would affect the drums, the rotors, the shoes, or the lining. And I look inside, I don't see any brake contaminants. All right, that concludes the front axle part of the test. We're going to close the truck, close the hood. All right, so as I go through this, again, I did the steering system, we got tires, we got the rims checked off, the lug nuts, the spring mounts, the brake lines, and the brake contaminants. So we've got check marks on all those. Going to the side of the vehicle. On the side of the vehicle, I'm going to check for all reflectors and lenses on the side of the truck, on the front and the side of the trailer. Make sure that all the lenses and reflectors are secure, they're not bent or broken, cracked, missing, but they're the proper color and they're clean. Next thing I'm going to do, we call these, the manual calls them traffic monitoring devices. We're just going to call them mirrors. The mirror brackets, both on the door and the fender, probably secure, not damaged, not broken. I'm going to look at the lenses inside the frame, make sure the lenses are secure, make sure that not damaged, make sure they're clean. Nothing worse than a shaky and a loose lens in your mirror. Next we're going to is the battery box. Where you at, John? The battery box is right here. We want to make sure that the battery box is secure and not damaged. It is. This was when it's magnetic, secure and not damaged. I'm going to make sure the batteries are secure in the battery tray, and they are screwed down right here. I'm going to look at the cables, make sure the cables are not cut or frayed or damaged. I'm going to look at the terminals or the post to make sure the post, everything's secure on the terminals and posts, everything's tight. Make sure there's no excessive corrosion. I'm going to skip over to the depth fuel tank. The depth fuel tank, the cap is tight. It's secure. There's no leaking from the lines above, and there's no evidence of leaking below the depth tank. We look at the fuel tank, the diesel fuel tank. The cap here is secure and tight. It's not leaking. I'm going to make sure that I can see no leaking against the fuel lines on top, and I don't see any evidence of leaking under the bottom. On this truck, I like to come around to the back. I can step inside here and I can see the straps on the fuel tank. Make sure that the straps are secure and that fuel tank is secure. Okay? Inside the truck, I'm going to go to the frame and the cross members. To identify the frame as being properly secure. It's not twisted, it's not torqued, it's not bent, no illegal or broken welds, no illegal holes. I'm going to look at the cross members, make sure the cross members are all in place, not damaged. All the hardware is in place for the cross members. They too are not twisted or broken, anything like that. We do have to do the trailer frame as well, but I do that a little bit later. We'll come down to that. On our sheet, it has an S for frames plural. We just did the tractor frame. We'll do the trailer frame when we get down here, when we do landing gear and clearance, when we do the tractor frame. Okay? So next we go to air and electric line connectors. And make sure that we do both the trailer and the tractor when we do the connectors. So look here, make sure our connectors on the tractor are secure not damaged. There's a safety latch on the electrical. We want to make sure there's no audible leaks. We're going to follow the lines with our connections here all the way over the tractor. We're going to make sure that our air lines and electrical lines are not tangled, they're not crimped or pinched, they're not dragging on anything. Okay? There's no exposed wires, frayed, cut wires on your electrical. Okay? Want to come back here to the tractor, the trailer, make sure that our glad hands are properly seated and sealed. There's no audible leaks. We can see that the electric line is set inside the socket here, or the receiver. It has a latch in place. Again, no damage, no audible leaks here. Okay, I'm going to move to the fifth wheel. On the fifth wheel, this is hard to understand because it lists everything on every fifth wheel combination that could be tested. So we just have to know part of this. We have to know the kingpin and apron and gap, the locking and safety devices, and then the skid plate. Okay? What you're given in your handout, everybody's going to get a handout like this, and this is what you need to know. This is the order you need to know it in. The fifth wheel assembly right here. This is what you need to know. This will tell you what you have to say for the Class A test. If you have a Class A test with a gooseneck or pintle hook or drawbar, then we use another test, another handout. But if you're using the Class A with no restrictions, then you'll use this fifth wheel assembly just to make sure we memorize that. All right. What we want to do here is we identify the apron, make sure it's going to say the visible part of the apron, all that we can see is not damaged, it's not broken. We want to make sure that the apron is laying flat on the skid plate. There's no gap between the skid plate and the apron, and it is well lubricated. We want to look at the skid plate is firmly attached to the frame by the platform. The platform and apron are not damaged, they're not worn, broken, anything like that. The platform is properly secured to the slide rail by these three sliding pins. You can see those sliding pins are engaged and in the lock position. The release handle is in the fully locked position as well. Identify that. Then I always identify to make sure there's no missing hardware along the side of that angle iron or the slide rail. All the nuts and bolts, all the hardware is in place. Now we got to jump underneath. Back up. All right, underneath there, we're going to look up in between the skid plate, and we're going to see the kingpin. We want to make sure the kingpin is poly mounted, secured, and it's not cracked, broken, or especially bent. And we look at the locking jaws. You can see the locking jaws behind the shank of the kingpin, and they're in place in the lock position. And there also is no play between the kingpin and the locking jaws. We're going to identify the lenses on the back of the truck. They are properly secured. They're not damaged or broken or missing. They're the proper red color and they are clean. All right. Next thing we want to do is identify a clearance. The fifth wheel skid plate is positioned correctly so there's enough room between the frame of the tractor and the landing gear to make all your turns. You want to identify the landing gear. The release handle or the crank handle is in place in a stored position. Don't let them hang free. Your frame is properly mounted and secured. All the hardware is in place. The dollies are fully retracted and the landing pad are not broken or damaged. We also want to identify the support frame across the middle. That's the X bars back there. Support frame is properly secured to the frame. All the hardware is in place and is not damaged. At this point in time, we'll look at the frame of the trailer. If you just want to take a look at the trailer, make sure everything is properly secured and not damaged to the side of the trailer. All the rivets are in place here along the base of the trailer. You want to look underneath, and we identify the cross members underneath the trailer. They're all in place, they're properly secured, not damaged, not broken, not missing. Want to look at the floor or the deck of the cargo area. This is a wooden floor, so make sure there's no dry rot. Make sure there's damage or holes on the floor. You want to come out here and look again at the reflective tape on the side of the trailer, make sure it's all properly affixed, it's clean, and it's the proper color. Alright, so we're back here at the back of the trailer, just about done. The back of the trailer we're doing like in the front, we're just checking the lenses. Our clearance and marker lights on top, our tail lights on the bottom, they're all properly secured, they're not damaged or missing, they're all proper red color and clean. We have reflective tape across 100% across the back of the trailer, and that is all affixed securely, is all the proper color, and it is clean. At this point in time, what you want to do is just go through your checklist. You get to use this for a reason. You get to use this, and it's going to help you immensely. Just go through it and make sure that you didn't miss anything. Once you say you're done with the test, then you're done, and then he'll grade you. But as long as you're checking, you can go back and say, oh, Mr. Tester, I forgot to do the rims on my axle. Walk back up there and do it. Okay, you're not done until you say you're done. Okay? This completes my inspection.